Santa Teresa is a sliver of land located just off the coast of Baja California, connected to the mainland by a 3-mile-long causeway that offers stunning views of deep blue water and sand so soft it doesn't feel real. It's like something out of a brochure. Lying there in a lounge chair on the beach all those years ago, I had no idea that by the end of our vacation, the beach walkway would be cordoned off with yellow police tape, and the soft sand would be covered with not just beach chairs, but body bags, stretchers, and blood. But that's how it always goes. No one ever thinks anything bad will ever happen at a beautiful sunny beach filled with equally beautiful people on vacation. The bizarre part is that the beach before and the beach after are two completely different things in my mind. Maybe it's for the best. The first thing you realize is that although reality may seem like a horror movie at times, enduring a scary movie-worthy event in real life is a very different experience. The odd part is that, for me at least, what happened at Santa Teresa seems less real than movies like Friday the 13th. Movies are clear, sharp, vivid, with a straight storyline that's easy to remember, and you can refresh events at will. When it happens for real, memory is hazy, opaque, and easy to second-guess. That's why eyewitness testimonies can be so unreliable. I've read the official reporting and timelines of the event, and while I certainly don't disagree with it, reading about it on paper makes it seem like a different event entirely. It's so dry and sanitized. In person, things are so vivid it sears your memory to the point where you can't recall it all as a complete picture. Instead, tiny details become the heart of the experience. For example, I can never remember the name of the restaurant we went to, but I remember the smell of our food like it was this morning. Maybe part of the reason is because I was on vacation, and vacations in general can seem like hazy fever dreams. Like many moments in time, 2006 simultaneously seems like it was both yesterday and an eternity ago. Like an alternate reality, it was similar to our daily life, but with just a few differences that make it seem like you were living on another planet. Video stores and shopping malls were routinely packed with customers. Cell phones were still mostly just devices for making phone calls. Netflix only delivered a movie to you through the mail, and most of my friends had a MySpace. We had plenty of technology that made life easier, but it wasn't so omnipotent and constant as it is now. 2006 was the year Daniel Craig made his first appearance as James Bond. More ominously, 2006 was just a year after Natalie Holloway disappeared in Aruba and became international news, just like we did. The day before we left, I spent the night at Chelsea's house. But before we ordered pizza for dinner, we went to Marty's Movies, her local video store, for a few movies to bring to Chelsea's vacation home in Santa Teresa. I've heard so much about this movie. She laughed and handed me the DVD case. It was Snakes on a Plane with Samuel L. Jackson. It looks insane. I know, and it's got Samuel L. Jackson in it. It can't possibly not be entertaining. I had no argument for that. So into the cart, it went. There was no line at the checkout, so we got in and out in good time before we went home and ate pizza. After some TV, we both triple-checked that we packed everything and went to bed early. I fell asleep quickly and woke up what seemed like minutes later with the sky just starting to lighten. Then we each grabbed a cereal bar, packed into the car, and with Chelsea behind the wheel, we hit the open road. We spent the first few hours in a state that can only be described as giddy, blasting music at odd intervals while the sun rose over the horizon. But eventually, I dozed off and woke up to Chelsea nudging me awake. "Come on, I don't want you to miss this." She was right. I will never forget my first view of Santa Teresa. It was the kind of beauty that unnerves you, an allure that sears your senses and reaches out and grabs you by the throat. Santa Teresa wasn't just easy on the eyes. It was so beautiful it was almost inhuman. The same way there is an almost primal allure of 24-karat gold that transcends all logic and reason. It was color and scenery so pure I was almost afraid to touch it. "Welcome to Santa Teresa, Vic. What do you think?" I began. "Amazing. It sure is. Soak it up. I'm trying. Well, take your time. Drink it in. She gave me a knowing smile. It's nothing like my family vacations to Orlando. Of course it's not. Orlando and a lot of other towns were built for tourists who were there to take their families on vacation. And if you're gearing something toward the whole family, it has to have a certain vibe. Yeah, that's true. It's like Vegas. While Vegas is still mostly aimed at adults, it's gotten far more family-friendly and all that over the years. Santa Teresa, on the other hand, prides itself on its exclusivity and not straying from that. Of course, that's led to plenty of rumors over the years. Rumors? One of the most persistent ones is that a big-time drug lord has a vacation home here. Does he? No idea, and I wouldn't care either. No one would, so long as you don't trespass on others' property and you behave yourself in general. I guess I can understand that. And it's not like shady people can't live everywhere. Plenty live around us. It's just a question of who knows. Besides, I just mentioned Vegas. Know who built the town? Who? The mob. She said it was like the most natural thing in the world. Wait, are you serious? You didn't know that? She shot me a look as the causeway ended, and she guided the car down neat streets lined with impressive beach houses facing the ocean. It's not a secret. Scorsese made an entire movie about it called Casino. It's a gem. Joe Pesci's character is like his performance in Goodfellas on steroids. Oh, shocked? Yeah, I was thinking you just watched one too many episodes of The Sopranos. Chelsea's father was a cop, and she had long harbored dreams of following him into the field, a dream he loved and took care to nurture. She was always watching cop shows or reading true crime books, so conversations like this were normal for us. Money is money and business is business, Chelsea continued. Places are like people. They have a good side and a bad side. The key is to bring out the good and keep the bad in check. Yeah, that makes sense, I admitted while she turned the car into her beach house's driveway. Like all the other beach houses around, it was beautiful. Tall white walls and massive windows that overlooked everything. Now stop overthinking and let's unpack and hit the beach. And for the record, there is no such thing as too many episodes of The Sopranos. It was more like the beach hit us. Both the water and sky, one a bright electric blue and the other a deep cerulean, stretched out past the horizon as far as the eye could see. During the day, I caught sight of some beachgoers who had neglected sunscreen, as they were sporting angry red and pink sunburns on their face, arms, and back. After we'd gotten our fill at the beach and were in desperate need for some food, we hopped in the car and drove to a local restaurant that served seafood that had been caught that morning. We had crabs so soft and fresh it was like different seafood entirely. The massive bay windows we were seated by showed the beach and the ocean in such crystal clear clarity it didn't seem real, much like the beach itself. Pictures are stunning, no doubt. But seeing it all in person is almost like an out-of-body experience. I suppose it makes sense that on vacation, you witness and experience things that make you think you left your body, because the term vacation comes from the word vacate. You vacate your ordinary life and find yourself in a different world. Once nighttime descended on the island, the beach was lit by small campfires, tiki torches, and occasional colored spotlights that made me think of spring break specials on TV. But this beach had none of that manic energy, either during the day or at night. There was plenty of energy to be sure, but it was much more subtle, like something people were slowly savoring the atmosphere as opposed to greedily devouring it. Nighttime at a tropical beach or anywhere tropical is like another world. It's feverish, heady, and uninhibited. Unless you grow up in the climate, nighttime there is very different from what you're used to. It's like it awakens some previously unknown part of you. As Chelsea and I walked along the beach and saw the moon peeking out at us from between palm trees, all the memories of home were washed away, and all that remained was the island. The first night there, I had a hard time sleeping, so we watched Snakes on a Plane. It was beyond ridiculous. But as Chelsea predicted, it was effective B-movie entertainment. But just because I didn't sleep well doesn't mean I lacked any energy for going out in the sun or surf. I soaked up the impeccable sand, and deep blue ocean with a vengeance. I was grateful we had beautiful weather the whole trip, because a rainy day at the beach is an odd sensation, contrary to everything the beach and a vacation are supposed to be. The sight of a beach with a pewter gray sky and equally gray waves is not just odd, it's a bit creepy. About halfway through our trip was the final campfire night. Most of the attendees were regular vacationers at Santa Teresa, so Chelsea was familiar with most of them. As the flames danced off the dark ocean waves and the burning wood crackled in the humid air, we jammed marshmallows on sticks and roasted them in the flames. Chelsea went about it in an incredibly methodical way to make sure her marshmallow was always brown, but I didn't care if it was brown or burnt. Sitting there, focused on the fire with my back to the ocean, I temporarily forgot where I was. In a way, the nightly campfire was a way to remind us that despite the exotic setting, it was still the end of a summer day. And like most nighttime campfires, there were plenty of attempts at scary stories. During the 1500s, there were witch burnings here. George from Santa Fe spoke up from the far end of the group. It happened right around where the causeway ends. I didn't know that, but I did know piracy was huge back in the day, Lauren from Lake Tahoe said before biting into her marshmallow. That it was, George nodded. In fact, people say Gustavo Cortés de Seville, the most prominent pirate to drop anchor around here, stashed some treasure right here on this island. People have looked for it for centuries, but no one has ever found it. My uncle swears he's seen the ghost of a pirate wandering around the beach at night. Seriously? Nick from San Francisco rolled his eyes. That's the best ghost story you can come up with? I swear it's true. He got up late one night to get a drink of water, and when he was walking to the kitchen, he passed the living room, which looks down on the ocean, and he swears he saw someone dressed in ratty pirate garb lumbering around. And you believe that? Nick asked before tossing a stick into the fire. My uncle is the most rational, non-superstitious person I know, so if he says he saw something, he saw something. I can't testify to that, but I did see some footprints in the sand by our cabin shortly after we arrived, Matt from Portland chimed in. I turned away from the spooky stories and focused on my favorite sight in Santa Teresa. Justin was gorgeous. Dimples, a sharp jawline, deep brown eyes. But what intrigued me was that while he was no doubt a strong guy who could easily hold his own, there was an inherent gentleness in him. He wasn't the kind of person who barrels into a room. Justin moved with an inherent agility and grace that was quiet, like a professional gymnast. I met him when he bumped into me by the cabana that was serving the most delicious smoothies I've had in my life. I'm Justin. He introduced himself before extending a hand that wasn't clutching a neon blue smoothie. Victoria. Nice to meet you. Do you have a nickname? My friends call me Vic. Vicky is out, huh? Absolutely. I despise being called Vicky. Tori is acceptable, but I prefer Vic. Vic it is. He smiled approvingly. Once I'd grabbed my smoothie, we walked out together and chatted for a while. When Justin had to leave to meet friends for dinner, he wrote down both his vacation house number and his number back home before running off for the night. I turned around and was greeted by the sight of Chelsea watching me with a knowing grin. But that night, it was Chelsea who had to leave as she left the fire to go to the bathroom, so I was alone with Justin for the time being. We were deep in conversation about nothing when I heard someone at the left end of the group laugh at something and yell into the distance. We both looked up and saw someone walking towards us in one of those cheap wooden tiki masks you could get anywhere down there. Like everyone else, I thought it was some kind of a gag. It's a horror movie cliché, but it really is your first reaction. It may be different nowadays, but people just weren't as paranoid about being attacked back then. The rest of us watched as Colton from Seattle, no doubt made bold by whatever he had to drink earlier, walked up to the guy in the tiki mask. In the orange glow from the fire, I could see the stranger was wearing khakis, a t-shirt, and tennis shoes. The tennis shoes were the only thing that stuck out to me as even remotely odd. Because tennis shoes and hanging out at the beach just don't mix. Like Colton, I thought the guy probably had one too many drinks. But when I saw the glint of the machete in the firelight, that's when reality hit home. In the blink of an eye, the guy in the tiki mask raised it and brought it down into Colton's chest with all his might. As we all started to scream or run, I saw a second person with a machete and a similar mask walking towards us on the other end of the beach. That was when we all ran away in opposite directions, with one masked figure going after a group of 3 and the other starting towards Nick from San Francisco, who was alone. Almost on instinct, I grabbed Justin's hand and we started back towards Chelsea's place. As we ran behind George, I was faintly aware of the dark red blood now staining the pristine white beach, the moonlight making it look like spilled ink. But there was no time to think of that. Everything looked horrifyingly foreign as Justin and I ran, our feet kicking up sand with every move we made. Sick panic began to set in as we tried to find a way back to Chelsea's house. I had only been there a few days, so I couldn't have found my way back there under the best of circumstances, much less when being pursued by some psycho with a weapon. When we passed one of the cabanas, another terrifying thought came to mind. We were totally alone out here. There were no neighborhood houses we could run to while screaming for help. We were isolated, alone, and plumb targets for whoever was attacking us. There were 2 out there that we knew of, but more could have been lurking around the nearest corner. It wasn't until we rounded a circle of beach chairs that the worst thought came to mind. Where was Chelsea? If she didn't know what was going on, she'd be walking right into a trap. My stomach gave a queasy lurch as I thought of the possibility that she had already run into them. But with a burst of adrenaline, I refused to think about that. I'd find her, and together, we'd all get out of here. But just as we were about to stop to catch our breaths, one of the figures in a mask jumped out in front of us. Justin and I both immediately turned to run, but the instant we tried to, we saw the other masked figure waiting for us on the other end of the beach. I could practically feel their smug expressions as they both slowly walked towards us, machetes raised. "What do we do?" I hissed to Justin as I frantically looked around for a weapon. "Let's try to create a diversion," was all Justin could say before I heard a loud swishing noise. I turned my head to figure out the source. But before I could figure out what happened, something silver slammed into the masked figure that had been approaching me. When he immediately collapsed on the beach, I noticed that he had been run through the chest with a large harpoon. I looked around and saw Chelsea standing at the end of the beach holding a huge harpoon gun that she had already reloaded and was aiming at the other masked figure, who stood there stunned for a moment before slowly starting to back away from us. But he didn't get far, as Chelsea fired the harpoon gun again, and the second harpoon whizzed through the air and went right through his leg and landed in the sand, pinning him down. His screams filled the air as she reloaded the gun a 3rd time before she carefully guided us back to her house. Once she called the police, Chelsea explained that she saw the 2 men lurking around and suspected they were up to no good. So she grabbed the harpoon gun from a local she knew and followed them. Fortunately, everyone else at the campfire survived that night. The worst anyone got was a few cuts or scrapes from a badly executed machete blow. Since Chelsea made sure to pin the guy down so he couldn't follow us, the local police had no problem finding him. While his leg was being patched up, he admitted to the cops what he and his friend were trying to do. The 2 guys had tried making a literal tourist trap because, along with a 3rd man, he and his dead associate had planned to stalk and kill people in Santa Teresa and get away with it by blaming criminal groups. But some people didn't take nicely to the idea of strangers committing violence and trying to blame it on them, because it didn't take police long to find the 3rd man involved. Or what was left of the 3rd man, because when the cops went to the bungalow they had rented in preparation, they found the remains of the 3rd man. His hands had been cut off. The wall over his body, which showed signs of torture, was painted with the words, "He and his friends should have kept their hands to themselves." I never did return to Santa Teresa, but I did get one amazing souvenir, because after the night at the beach, Justin and I went on a real date and stayed together. There's nothing that connects people like enduring trauma together. We joke all the time that after what happened at Santa Teresa, everything else was easy. And Chelsea was the star of the hour, the one everyone wanted to interview. The mayor of Santa Teresa eventually declared the calendar day immediately following the incident Chelsea McFarland Day. But rumors about what happened that night are everywhere. Some say there were far more people involved than just those three, while others say it was some kind of conspiracy. But either way, all of us who were there that night are now part of someone's campfire story. Personally, I find it kind of thrilling that I'm immortalized in someone's campfire story. There are far worse ways to be remembered.